Hello, and welcome to today's review. I'm your host, Justin Smith, upcoming senior at Suffolk University and Harrison Ford's Mini-Me. Now, let's take a look at today's breaking headlines. A college student who was stuck on a New York City subway on his way to graduation was given an impromptu ceremony by passengers. Said the student, "It's funny the way things worked out. I actually graduated the same place I'll live after college." It's reported that Megyn Kelly will interview the Kardashians on her new NBC News show. Kelly is promised big ratings and even bigger booties. A model reported to spend $240,000 on surgery to look like Kim Kardashian. The model's parents said, "Whose kid is that?" Then Kris Jenner said, "Can't be mine. Not enough Botox." An article from Mashable.com says teachers are using facial recognition technology to see if students are paying attention in class. It has been a vast improvement over just looking to see if your students are paying attention in class or making the subject interesting. June 2nd marks National Donut Day, while June 3rd is National Day of "Oh my God, what did I just do? I'm so fat." A man on a Southwest flight was ejected from the plane for using the bathroom before takeoff, fought his way back on, and was dragged off again. United Airlines is now suing for copyright infringement. NASA reports that Earth will experience 15 days of darkness in November due to an alignment of Jupiter and Venus. Jupiter and Venus say they are doing this in honor of the day Donald Trump was elected. Britain's Got Talent judge Amanda Holden has come under fire for dressing like a stripper, quote, during the show's semifinal. Adding to the confusion to the whole thing was a burlesque act dressed like Simon Cowell. A 12-year-old from Fresno, California, won the National Spelling Bee by spelling the word Marroquin, though to be fair, the runner had to spell whatever Confefe is. Now, moving on to our main topic today, I'd like to tackle some seemingly simple yet outstanding issues, namely misogyny, corporate greed, and the restricting of creativity, more specifically within the realm of video games. And you know that thing the quiet kid in class went on to do for a living, and you wish you knew him better so you could thank him for all the great material for self-pleasure. We're looking at you, Lara Croft. Everyone knows it. You're great too, though, Catwoman, and Cortana, people only know I'm addressing you by default. You are an artificial intelligence, and I might not be able to get herpes from you, but I get the feeling if we hook up, there would be a burning sensation, and not in a good way. Like I'd want to get with you anyway. You look like a cross between a Smurf and a sex shop mannequin. Try getting that image out of your head. Spoiler alert, you can't. Now, when video games are thoughtfully and lovingly developed, they can have amazing outcomes. Such examples are the Uncharted series, which has an average of 92.25 on Metacritic over its 4 main installments, spanning over 9 years. The Legend of Zelda series, with Ocarina of Time being considered one of the greatest, if not the greatest, video game ever made. The Mario series, which is still going strong after 30 years. Now, these are the type of games that I will not be discussing with you because what fun is it where there's a story that nothing all that bad happens? You know, like Twilight. You're caught between 2 attractive men, Bella. Your life isn't all that bad. Don't kill yourself just because one of them left you for your safety. Read a book. Not your book, though. Something much better than that. Burn! Anyway. Yeah. Several video games have become victims of rushed development or development that has been severely tampered with by, in one way or another, forcing the games to be released either before they are finished or in a state that ends up being far from the original design. And everyone knows when people try to finish things before they are ready, it never ends well. Chelsea. Now, the reason I want to talk about this is because of many unfortunate examples of what can happen when the main motivation for something is money. And besides, let's face it, when you hear the term video game, you probably, on some level, hear the Mario theme in your head. And how enjoyable is that? Da 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 da. Enough of that, though. Now, let's just dive headfirst right into it. As some may or may not know, there are two separate groups involved in video game development. One, the developer, such as Core Design, Crystal Dynamics, which is now known as Square Enix, BioWare, etc., who actually make the game, and the publisher, who releases it and tries to make it sell. Such examples of this are Eidos Interactive, Ubisoft, or Electronic Arts, which, it should be pointed out, is legendary when it comes to poor publisher-developer relationships. Such examples can be found with Dragon Age 2, where EA forced BioWare to basically make it a copy of its other successful franchise, Mass Effect, as Brent Knowles, former head of BioWare, leaving during development, stating, quote, "I'm not the same person I was when I started, and BioWare isn't the same company," end quote. Which is kind of basically the business equivalent of "it's not you, it's me." Battlefield 4, which was EA rushed out the door to get ahead of its competitor, Call of Duty, despite the fact that Battlefield 3 was only released a short time prior, and the game had so many bugs you'd have to call an exterminator, as well as SimCity, which required a constant internet connection to play, so if your Wi-Fi went down, you were basically screwed, and you couldn't play at all. And those are just a few among many others. So think of EA like the Jar Jar Binks of video game publishing.
Oh, Misa like the video games, muy.
While publishers are not necessarily always to blame for the quality of a game, many games and even entire companies have been hindered or even ruined by publishing companies which only look at things from a business perspective, trying to make a quick buck and capitalize on financial opportunities. Seeing video games not as an art, but as a product that must meet a quota. To see how deeply rooted this is, let's go all the way back to 1983, when Reagan was in the White House, MTV was young, and a girl became famous for wearing a shirt with a big collar. The year before, Atari ruled the video game industry, and their 2600 console was a must-have. In one of many cases of a movie ruining a game, Atari bought the rights to a tie-in game for the film E.T. the Extraterrestrial. However, with the rights purchased in the summer of 1982, and the game becoming a flagship title for the console that year, due for a Christmas season, the developers were only given a deadline of 5.5 weeks. The game did so poorly that it became a prominent contributor to the gaming industry crash of 1983. The game itself was recalled from shelves, and many unsold copies found themselves, and I swear to you this is not made up, buried in a New Mexico desert landfill. And you'd think giving someone an insane deadline like that, which literally left games dead and buried, would teach publishers a lesson, but no, it would be just a very unfortunate start of a very unfortunate practice. As recent as 2014, we can look at games like Assassin's Creed Unity and how Assassin's Creed's franchise had tried to release a new game every year since its introduction in 2007. So the rushed development of Unity resulted in a game containing glitches like this one, which, I'm sorry, if you're going to allow a glitch to appear in a game, at least try not to have it be so reminiscent of blackface. Ubisoft, when it comes to racism, you don't be soft, burn. There is the matter also of one of the biggest and most disturbing offenders, Sonic the Hedgehog, a franchise sequel/reboot released in 2006. The game whose development can only be politely described as a debacle and harshly described as a Cirque du Soleil of screw-ups. The game was rushed so it could coincide with Sonic's 15th anniversary and the 2006 Christmas season. The development team was split into two, with one working on this game and the other half working on Sonic and the Secret Rings. With the team split, half the people were doing the same amount of work. Bug reports were even ignored in order to meet the deadline. Hence, the game was released full of bugs and glitches, a convoluted story, and somehow, amidst all that, this creepy kiss worked its way into it. I don't care if it took the game a day or a decade to be developed. How does bestiality work its way into any of this? What are you doing, Sega? That's Disney's territory. Know your place, Sega. Know your place. To get a little bit more specific, though, I like to mainly focus on what might be the most head-shaking example, Tomb Raider: The Angel of Darkness. Released in 2003 and Lara Croft's debut PS2 appearance. Just to give some background information on the Tomb Raider franchise and the character of Lara Croft, who actually served as an awakening for many teenage boys in the 90s. The Tomb Raider series debuted in 1996, saw 4 more games released annually before Angel of Darkness. In 2010's Gamers edition of the Guinness Book of World Records, she holds 6 records, including most successful video game heroine, most recognizable female in a video game, and most successful live-action transfer. Basically what happened is publisher Eidos Interactive forced developer Core Design to finish the game in time to capitalize on the release of the new movie, Lara Croft Tomb Raider: The Cradle of Life. That's right, they thought it would be a good idea to capitalize on the release of a movie that featured this, Lara punching a shark in the nose. Okay, there's a few things wrong with that. 1, sharks are incapable of making any noise of any kind with their mouths. 2, I think she breathed out more air than is possible for a human to hold inside their lungs. And 3, why would you slow down the footage and still have the sound be normal in time? What? Consistency, guys, consistency. That's all I'm asking for. And while the previous film was, in my opinion, a tiny bit more faithful to the material, it still contained this moment. And what pisses me off isn't the blatant eye candy and disregard for story or character development. It's that that's not how Lara takes a shower. This is how Lara takes a shower.
Don't you think you've seen enough?
That's right. You show those perverts Lara who's boss. No side boob for them today. That'll teach them to drill a hole in the girls' locker room. Chris. Anyway, clearly those moments of shark punching and shower taking assured fans that the Tomb Raider franchise was going strong. Well, it was until Angel of Darkness was released. Well, it was supposed to be its own game and an installment in a trilogy of games became Tomb Raider Cash Grab. And if you think things are looking bad, allow me to provide you a video reference. How do you take one of the most legendary names in gaming and drag it through the mud? First, you base your box art on the terrible movie tie-in, then take out any tomb rating, finally release the game with many, many bugs, and have Lara getting stronger by opening doors? I'm pretty sure fitness doesn't work like that. This was Core Design's last Tomb Raider game and the last in the original series. That's when you hit the reboot button, and this franchise has had to do that twice. If I got stronger every time I opened a door, I'd be freaking Arnold Schwarzenegger by now. Ready to raid the tombs, I opened the door. Whoever thought that leveling up in through strength of opening doors was a good idea must have been the same person who thought it was a good idea to release the actual cover of Macy Gray's Aerosmith's Walk This Way.
Walk this way, talk this way, he told me to walk this way, talk this way, he told me to walk this way, talk this way, he told me to walk this way, and just give him a kiss.
Now, I've never put Minnie Mouse in a blender before, but I think I know how that would sound like. Now back to the original point though. Now, as they said in that clip, since Angel of Darkness, the Tomb Raider series has been rebooted twice, specifically in 2006 with Tomb Raider Legend, and again 2013's Tomb Raider. Which, while that might sound like a remake of the original, it actually served as an origin story and a drastic change in tone for the series. For example, this is how you might have died while playing 1996 Tomb Raider.
Da ist er.
Yeah, ragdoll. And then how you might have died while playing 2013's Tomb Raider. Spike through the throat. Now, that is the iteration which the series is currently in, and probably wouldn't even exist if it wasn't for Angel of Darkness's poor critical and financial reception. Kind of like how those heat warnings on coffee cups because of that woman who spilt it on herself and filed a lawsuit that she won. In both cases, the resulting consequences really, no, they're not that bad, but I think many of us would agree that in both cases, it would have been a lot better had they never happened in the first place. For all the criticism it's gotten, though, Angel of Darkness has been reported by fans and critics to have many positive aspects to it, such as its plot of Lara evading police and trying to prove her innocence in the murder of her mentor, while also investigating the activities of a black magic cult. And you can investigate within the game by exploring environments and interacting with other characters, and the encouragement to explore offers much incentive to keep playing. The score, which was performed by the London Symphony Orchestra, coupled with the game's art direction, offered the game a very nice tone, if I do say so myself, with one level even taking place in the Louvre. And something I bet you didn't know was the Louvre actually doesn't look like this on the inside. And if you're like me, you always assumed that the interior looked like Superman's Fortress of Solitude. The resemblance is uncanny, no? And while Lara at least had a strong and tough presentation in that game, the same, unfortunately, cannot be said for our next topic, which is another video game series entitled Metroid. Full disclaimer, I've never fully played a Metroid game. I know right off the bat I'm going to get some flack for that. But given the research I've done on the franchise, I like to think I know as much as someone who has played most of the games, or at least has a general overview, which allows me to have a more informed opinion than those outside of the fan base. And I'd like to prove that to you right now. To give a little bit of background and context, Metroid is a series known for mystery, dark sci-fi settings, and exploration, where you play as lone female bounty hunter Samus Aran, who is out to defeat aliens and save the world. Most of the stories are told with minimal dialogue, and from the time the series was first introduced in 1986, Samus didn't even speak until 2010's Metroid Other M. The other titles to that point had been Metroid Fusion, Super Metroid, Metroid Prime, and here we have Metroid Other M. If you ask me, that sounds like a very offhanded title compared to others. I mean, you've got Metroid Prime, Metroid Fusion, Super Metroid, and this one, let's call it Metroid Other M. But what's the other M? I don't know. I mean, this is another Metroid game, and it's one of those video games that starts with an M in the title. We'll figure it out as we go along. Now, while Super Metroid lets you know that you're in for an awesome sci-fi adventure, when you hear Metroid Other M, you think, what's that? That tells nothing. These games are supposed to have mystery in the gameplay, not the title. All that tells me is that it's another Metroid game. Is that the Other M, another Metroid game? Please tell me what the Other M is. It's like trying to figure out what Victoria's Secret is. It's so simple yet so elusive. Let me play for you some of Samus's most memorable lines from Metroid Other M. See, it doesn't sound as intense now, does it? Anyway, here we go.
I had been reliving the tragic moments of my recent past. The finality of it struck me once again. Codename Baby's Cry. A common SOS with the urgency of a baby crying. The nickname comes from the fact that the purpose of the signal is to draw attention.
As opposed to those other distress signals that are more of a, talk amongst yourselves, I'm fine, just wanted to say hello, nothing to see here, please go about your day, pip pip cheerio. We're not even 8 minutes into 2 hours worth of cutscenes from the game.
The word he so obviously chose, outsider, pierced my heart.
And to serve as the icing on the vanilla cake,
Samus, You copy. Samus! Samus, use your plasma beam! What's your status?
He can't be!
Samus, do you read me?
You understandably might be thinking, but that was a huge pterodactyl monster. I'd be scared too. It's understandable that she would react like that. Actually, for her, it isn't understandable, and I'll tell you why. She'd already faced that alien in previous Metroid titles without issue. What's playing on the screen right now is all the time Samus had previously fought that Ridley monster. Why, all of a sudden, is she freaking out just now? In defense of Other M, though, sometimes writers have no way of knowing how people will react to their work and interpret it. Personally, though, it seems pretty clear to me that writers had never played the Metroid games or thoroughly researched them. If they did, I'd love to know what they looked at, because I'm sure, even from a vague description that I've just given, nothing I tell you that Samus would sound like an emo teen trying to find their place in the world. It's almost like they turned Samus into a parody of the latest Tomb Raider and James Bond stories. Both those franchises breathe new life into their characters by making them layered, complex, and multidimensional. Now, they clearly wanted to do this to Samus, but they made the fatal mistake. While Tomb Raider has included narration and monologues from Lara in her latest games, they are largely about her current situation and its stakes, not how she felt about the situation and the people she was with. If I just gave you Samus's lines to a stranger and asked someone to guess who they think said them, they would probably guess a hormonal teenage girl. Now, women in video games, just like women in this country, have come a long way, and if you want to get technical, the real first video game came from MIT in 1962 called Space Wars. Metroid came out in 1986, which means women had to wait 24 years before they got their own game character. And if you're thinking that Samus's gender was used as a marketing ploy, you'd be wrong, because actually Samus's gender was kept as a secret. If you read the game's manual, it even refers to Samus with masculine pronouns. You wouldn't even know she's a woman until the end of the game, and even then, that was only if you finished the game in a certain amount of time. Wow, and you thought your girlfriend had standards. You better finish my game in an hour if you want to get this. Otherwise, all you're going to get is this. So think about that the next time your woman says, "Not tonight." That lady in your game won't just hand out to you willy-nilly. She'll make you work for it. Looks like girls run the virtual world too. Thank you so much for watching. Hope that we can do this again sometime, and please take care of yourself. Goodbye.